Good morning, everybody. We're going to start shortly, waiting for a few more people to attend. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and being with us for the Ruckus and Poly webinar. All right, then, without any further ado, I want to again thank you so much, everybody, for giving us your time out of the busy schedules that you all have, and hope you will be able to get lots of good information from this webinar. I want to thank our partners, Ruckus and Polly, to help us with setting this webinar, and also great team at IT Management Corporation. So many of you guys that may have worked with us in the past, I want to thank you so much for the partnership. For those that we haven't had the privilege and honor to partner with, I want to give you a few minutes and introduce ourselves to you. IT Management Corporation has been in Northern California for over 10 years. We do network security, cabling, data center surveillance, and wireless, and many other solutions. And we predominantly work with K through 12 and local government. We do public Wi-Fi with many cities and municipality and even counties to close the digital divide and provide Wi-Fi to many schools and students, as we are all battling the COVID and other challenges that students and others are faced with. We have many state contracts and government contracts that allow the procurement process much easier for any solution that we present to you, and we can talk to you in more details about them. Pretty much our strategy is plan, deploy, and manage. That's basically what we stand, and customer can work with us in a full life cycle of IT or just different aspect of whether it's procurement or planning or maintenance. We have been blessed to work with many awesome manufacturers, and we have many technical expertise in different arenas when it comes to networking and IT. We also have 101 Voice, which is our cloud telecom services that can work well with on-premise phone systems as a SIP trunk, or it can be a fully hosted system. We have many solutions when it comes to working with IT organizations and school district, and we have a product that just got launched that we provide that for 6 months free service, and that is Code Red Alert. If you have any interest, please reach out to us and we give you much more detail about it. Now, what we believe in IT management is that the world runs on IT, and we are here along with our partners to plan, deploy, and manage the IT. Again, I want to thank you so much for your time. There would be a $25 Uber Eats gift registration that would be emailed to you after this webinar for those who attended. There's also a raffle for Ruckus Wireless Access Point. Ruckus has been generous to provide that, and we will be doing a raffle, those who had attended. Poly, which is former called Polycom, has also been generous enough to put some awesome gift for the raffle. That being said, I will pass the baton to Mr. Logan Lemming with Ruckus.
Thank you very much, Armand. And let me just say that it is just an absolute privilege to work with great partners like IT Management. They have a phenomenal team there. So if you have any IT challenges, I guarantee they will be able to point you in the direction of a solution for that. So today what we wanted to do, you're going to be hearing from Ruckus first and then from Polly next. We wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of digital inclusion, what's been going on. Obviously we do a lot of networks in local government and K-12, and the idea of getting everybody connected and how the networks have changed, especially with COVID and here coming out of the pandemic, how you can structure your network to really to perform into the future. So just a bit of a background on Ruckus. Ruckus Networking, we are a full stack networking company. We provide wireless switching, onboarding, cloud management. We have physical virtual appliances. We have a controllerless architecture. We have an incredible analytics suite that runs on top of it all and brings it together. So really, if it's networking and it's campus networking, we have a solution for you. As a wireless manufacturer, we have probably more different wireless access points than anybody else out there for different use cases. If you've ever stayed in a Hilton or a Marriott, you have used Ruckus Wireless, and pretty much in Northern California, if you've gone to school, you've probably been on a Ruckus network as well. So just getting into what we're talking about today, a lot of people are starting to roll out Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6 or 802.11ax, they're the same thing, kind of a rebranding, a remarketing of it. And so a lot of Wi-Fi 6 APs are being deployed as we have more students coming on. The pandemic forced a lot of school districts to purchase a lot of devices ahead of schedule to deploy one-to-one for everybody. And as those devices are coming back to school, or they're starting to do hybrid, there's a lot more devices on the network. So naturally, Wi-Fi 6 is where people are starting to head and starting to install. But there's some considerations about Wi-Fi 6. That's the kind of idea what we wanted to do today, is talk about some of the kind of gotchas or maybe things that might get in the way of your successful wireless rollout. So what a lot of, I kind of harken back to when I built my first PC. I upgraded the motherboard and I put new RAM in it, and I booted that thing up, and I was really unimpressed at how fast it was. And I was like, what's going on? And what I did is I forgot to upgrade the hard drive. And so my bottleneck was still in there. And so what we've done is a lot of these Wi-Fi 6 APs have almost up to 4 times the capacity as the APs that they're replacing. We have 8 chain APs. We have and just the Wi-Fi 6 protocol by itself is designed around high density. And so what we've done is we've just taken the bottleneck, and the bottleneck used to be between the client and the AP, and now we've just shoved it up a level between that AP and the core, because most of those APs are connected to a 1 gig connection back to the switch. And so when you have 2 or 3 times as many devices on that AP, it's going to be pushing a lot more traffic. So what we see is that a lot of these Wi-Fi 6 APs, all the ones that we manufacture, come with an mGig or multi-gig port. And so that can be a little confusing for some people, but it's a port that can negotiate higher than 1 gig if it has the ability on the switch and with the wiring connected to it. So generally we see a 2.5 gig for most, and some of them up to 5 gig connections. And so really when you're looking to roll out Wi-Fi 6, you need to think about what the switch that it's connecting to and whether or not that has mGig capability. And so we'll get into that a little bit later. The other thing, so we have the mGig, that's the one thing we should be thinking about. But the second one is that we need to be thinking about power as well, because a lot of these devices, we used to 15 watts of power was the kind of the first marker when we started doing PoE. Then we got the PoE plus, which is 30 watts. But now we're starting to think about PoE plus plus, or high power PoE, which is 60 or 90 watts, and that's a lot of power. And when we're thinking about switches, when we think about access points, 3 to 7 years, 5 hopefully, especially in K-12, to replace that. But the switches usually are around a little bit longer. And so you need to be thinking about, if I'm going to buy this switch today, I'm going to be putting that thing in, and it's going to be there at least 5, maybe 7, and maybe even longer, depending. And so it may have the power to power the devices I have now, but does it have the power to power the devices that are coming? And so we're seeing APs that are coming now that we're starting to see Wi-Fi 6E, which is an addition of an entire new radio and band to the APs that may be pushing above that 30 watt threshold. Not to mention pan tilt zoom cameras, sensors, thermostats. We're starting to see HD TVs that are powered from the network, which is super convenient because you don't have to run power to it, but the switch has to provide the power for that. So just a consideration, don't get that lost in there when you're thinking, hey, I'm gonna put these Wi-Fi 6 APs in. Make sure that you have the plumbing to really get the data to and from that AP successfully. As on the Ruckus side, we were early embracers of mGig. We have multi-gig ports in not only our entry level, like the 7150 line. The 7150's 48 ZP is a very popular switch in K-12, 48 ports, 16 of which are high power PoE and can do multi-gig. We actually have some compact fanless multi-gig switches too that are great to put into an IDF that doesn't have it just has a backboard. Maybe you don't even have a rack in there, or maybe even in a classroom where you don't need that, you don't need the fan noise. Those are silent, as well as the 7550 and into the 7650 and up multi-gig switches, which are more of your access, kind of your aggregation layer, and then into more of your core. And so the MSRPs are there at the bottom. You can kind of get an idea, competitively, where we're at, and then really the kind of ports that we have. And all of these are able to push that higher power that I'm talking about, that PoE++ power. So that's the first concern. That's just kind of a gotcha, as we're doing a lot of Wi-Fi 6 deployments. But I really wanted to bring something also like really exciting to the table. And we know that networks are having more and more users on them. We have more and more devices, and so it's getting more and more difficult to manage networks. And so how do we deal with that? And really, the focus is really going from getting things connected to really what's the user's experience when they're on the network, because we don't want trouble tickets, because we don't have enough staff to handle the trouble tickets we have now, let alone all the trouble tickets that come from 2 to 3 or 4 times as many devices being on our network. Everybody's got they got a phone, and they got a tablet, and they got a computer, and they all got to get connected on the Wi-Fi. The reality is they're getting too complex with how many devices are on them for us to manage them effectively the way we're doing it now. We have to change something. And so, here's some of the stats. This comes from Circin Research. This is a big poll done for a lot of IT professionals. 42% say they are spending too much time troubleshooting, and 38% that they don't even have what they need to actually get the answers that they need to do the troubleshooting. And of course, none of us are surprised. It's always the Wi-Fi, right? Or at least to people's perception, it is that the number one thing is that there's some issue in the wireless, or that's perceived, or that there's wireless issues. So we really have 3 options. How do we deal with this? Well, number one is we hire more people, and that can definitely do it. That is a very difficult thing. It's a big commitment, a salary for somebody new, not to mention trying to find somebody new. And with all the relocation going on, finding somebody local may be more and more difficult. The second thing is other people, and that's actually a really viable option. We see a lot of people starting to leverage partnerships, like partnerships with IT management, a managed service provider that can come in and manage your wireless for you. They have the personnel, highly trained personnel who are very familiar with it. So that is a great option. If that's not an option for you, the other thing that we can bring to the table is let's put some computing power on this. Let's use some machine learning, some artificial intelligence to help us out. And because really what our goal is we want to get to we want to get our MTTR down, our mean time to resolution. We want either unplanned downtime to be so rare people don't even think about it. We want the tickets to come in to be real tickets, not just we have a bad spot here, and so now I'm sending a ticket in all the time. And we really want to have a good user experience on the wireless for the people who are using it. We want to transition from more of a manual process to an automated process where the network manages itself. We want to, instead of investigating, we want to validate whether or not, when the system tells us what's wrong, hey, is that true? That is true. Okay, fix it. And we want to get away from this idea of an uptime to an experience that's really good for the user. And then we want to be more surgical and insightful with how we are managing our network. So that's why we built Ruckus Analytics. So what Ruckus Analytics is Ruckus Analytics is machine learning and artificial intelligence in the cloud. And what it does is it collects data from Ruckus networks all the way across the world, thousands and thousands of access points and switches that all feeding into a pool of data, which then allows us to correlate issues across what we see across every Ruckus installation. It can be just it could be on a competitor switching, but it's our wireless. We're still going to get that information. We're going to get information from the switches too. So we do incident analysis. We can look and see if there's incidents, and we can bubble them up. We can manage and monitor the network. You set what you think a healthy network looks like in your environment, and then we'll show you if you're right on the dashboard whether you're in spec. It also gives you more client troubleshooting, where you can actually see clients connecting, see exactly where it breaks, and go remedy it. Not to mention that it will bubble those things up. If it sees that a bunch of users on your network are trying to connect and not getting IP addresses, it's going to tell you, you may have a DHCP lease issue, or maybe your DHCP pool is out. It's going to actually suggest a resolution. And as we continue to improve it, I think Today, we just announced some new features that all of our Ruckus Analytics customers get, and we are continuing to add features all the time. We're actually running a little virtual client on our APs in software that can actually test the network. So every single one of our access points is a network tester and network collector now. And that just actually launched this morning. And so as a Ruckus Analytics customer, any updates and those things that come out, the service continues to get better and better. Of course, reporting, that's table stakes, great reports. You actually have an ability to go in and slice and dice and do your own reports in a reporting explorer, the ones that you care about. It's your data warehouse about your network, to be honest. And then service validation, and as well as, you know, everyone's got to have an assistant, right? There's a little assistant. If you want to ask Melissa, who is basically the background, you know, automated machine learning process, artificial intelligence that we're using, ask questions about your network. It actually, you can ask questions in plain English, and she'll go actually fetch the answers for you. And then as well as, you know, we plug into ServiceNow, we plug into other, so where if a network incident comes up, it can actually open up a ticket for you. And really just the desire on our side is to get you to the point where the network is telling you, or it's tuning itself, and it's telling you, hey, I'm seeing this, maybe I need your help in validating this, rather than you having to do all the work and going and looking for all the answers yourself. So, you know, in the interest of time, I know I kind of went through that really quickly, but we have a couple of Ruckus engineers actually on this call. So if you have any questions, you can put in the chat. They can help you out with that. I think we're going to have a Q&A time at the end as well. But really, just in closing, I just wanted to update you on those items that may get lost in the shuffle, and also show you some really cool things that that Ruckus is doing to make your life better, and to give your users, honestly, a better experience on your network. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Logan. I appreciate your time and giving us the rundown of what Ruckus has. Obviously, Ruckus is quite popular when it comes to K through 12 and municipality and many other arenas. And with your switching background with Brocade, and before that Foundry, you guys have very strong layer 3, layer 2 switching. So thank you so much. And that being said, I would switch to a subject that we're going to be talking for a few minutes, as one of our panelists, Felipe, will be joining us with Polly. So what I have here is based on many requests from our customers. They want to know what Poly or other manufacturers have when it comes to hybrid classroom and distance education. Situation in which that is going on still in some schools. Teachers are teaching from their home, or they come to school and they teach from school to an audience that is remote, or some schools have a hybrid situation. So Poly has various different products. Polycom has decades and decades of experience when it comes to video conferencing and video presentation systems, and now they have been merged with Plantronics, so they have fantastic audio products. So what we have in here is an illustration of a card that has a Poly Studio camera. This is a 4K HD camera which does tracking. As the presenter is presenting this to the students, the camera is showing the far end students, and also track the teacher as it goes from one side of the classroom to other side, as long as it is within 120-degree field of view. This is quite common, and we see that with many schools, especially with the CARES Act money from last round. Many schools essentially got into looking into this and purchasing this. We have also other solutions in which the same card can be, so this is the actual card. Sorry about the cables kind of rolling on the floor. There is a power strip that's supposed to basically maintain the cable a little bit better. And this is a situation where the remote students, whether Microsoft Team or Zoom, or it could be any other application such as Google, they are huddled around and they are talking as if they are pretty much sharing the same experience and so forth. This will again allow the teachers to conduct the classroom in a little bit more easier process. So that being said, I will turn this to Vicky, and she is with Polycom. She is one of the phenomenal resources that Ruckus Polycom has that would essentially help with grants and a methodology to essentially get financial help to get you from point A to point B. So again, thank you so much, everybody. And Vicky, go on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Armand. Thank you so much for having me on the webinar today. I'm going to start by talking through sort of what my team does and some funding opportunities that are currently available. And then after that, I am going to turn it over to my colleague Felipe, who is going to focus on the technology and talk about some trends that he's been seeing in the education space. So getting started here, again, the first thing I want to do is just give you a sense of who I am, what my team does, and sort of how you can utilize me in the future and how I can support you. So I am part of the Poly Grant Assistance Program. We are a free resource for Poly's clients when it comes to anything funding related. And actually, I work for a separate entity. I work for an independent grant management and consulting firm called Learn, Design, Apply, Inc. And Learn, Design, Apply has decades of experience in the funding space, particularly when it comes to funding that can be used to purchase technology. So we're really experienced there. And we actually, we have a contract with Poly where we serve, again, as the go-to funding and grants resource for any of their clients. And we can help out in a plethora of ways when it comes to supporting you in this. We can provide just general, research and education on where to find funding. We have sort of a follow the money mentality where we scope out the biggest funding opportunities, usually at the federal level, but also at other levels. And we can let you know sort of, what is going to be a good fit for you. We can pre-qualify you before you go, too down the road of trying to apply. We can kind of handhold and provide assistance, project manage your project throughout the entire application process. We also work with a wide network of grant writers. So if you're interested in potentially hiring a grant writer for a project and you don't want to write that grant application yourself, we can connect you with somebody who has a lot of experience in general or in that specific program that you're looking to pursue. And of course, we also provide post-award support. With some of the grant programs, the real work starts actually after you get the award, and you want to make sure that you do all the proper reporting and so on, so we can help there as well. And a big thing to keep in mind, we are a no strings attached resource. So you can really, utilize us. There's no catch. Again, no strings attached. Just as long as there is opportunity for Poly and what you're looking to purchase, we can, be looped in and help you as much as you like. Now, moving on from that, there's just a few things I want to tell you about funding in general that I think will frame this conversation a bit. So funding is rarely about the specific items or technologies that you're purchasing. It's really all about how those solutions address a specific problem, a specific need, a specific challenge that you're experiencing. So it might be based on the demographics that you serve, based on the geography you find yourself in. Maybe you're in a rural area and face added challenges because of that. It could be, more of like a short-term type of project. It could be more of a long-term project. So, that is all really important when you're considering the type of funding that you want to pursue. And again, that is where we can really be consultative and try to help figure out the programs that are going to be the right fit for you. And what we typically say is funding follows the problem. And of course, one size is not going to fit all. So, again, just keep that in mind. And when it comes to education funding, I have a few examples listed here, and I'm going to go through these really quickly. But again, keep in mind the whole thing of like one size does not fit all. These are just some examples of the education funding that's out there. There's also various, healthcare funding that exists. Especially there's opportunity potentially for connecting education entities and healthcare entities on projects. So again, keep in mind the opportunities they're not limitless, but there's a ton of opportunities out there. And again, we really try to stay in the know on the various funding that exists. So of course, right now, COVID relief funding is a major focus for a lot of education entities. And even within the COVID relief bucket, there's different problems that are trying to be solved, sort of different priorities that different funds might have. There's of course a focus on distance learning, mitigating learning loss. That's a big focus of the ESSER 2 fund that is currently out from the new stimulus. Emergency aid to students is something that we're seeing at the higher ed level. The fund that's relevant there, the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, really wants to make sure that students are, getting some additional money for any COVID-related expenses they might have. But there's also a portion of that fund that goes to the institution itself for making any kind of, relevant purchases, including technology purchases. And we also work, throughout the year, we work on various literacy programs, STEM initiatives. School-based health is becoming, a really prominent funding area. And we see that, with the next stimulus, the American Rescue Plan, there's a bit of a focus also on school-based health and trying to make sure that each school is connected to a nurse. So, really interesting opportunities arising there. And then one program that I want to plug specifically just before I wrap up is a program called the RUS DLT. It's a program put out by the USDA's Rural Utility Service, and it's for distance learning and telemedicine. A really great program that aims to provide funding for projects that are trying to give rural residents access to critical services that they need. So again, it could be distance learning, could be telemedicine, it could be a combination of the two, but it's all about, connecting rural areas either, to themselves or maybe to an urban hub to get them the really critical resources that they need. So if you happen to be, located in a rural area yourself, or maybe you are not, but you would love to partner with somebody in a rural area and engage in a project like this, I definitely recommend that you reach out to me and we can talk about this a little bit further. This is a really, again, great opportunity. This program should be coming out very, very soon. And if you want to reach out, so again, here's my email. As I said, these are just some of the funding opportunities that are available. It is not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. So, happy to kind of work with you and figure out the funding that's going to work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, and I want to pass it over now to Felipe, who is a colleague of mine, and again, really focuses on the technology space at Poly and has a really good sense of the trends, that are currently happening in education.
Thank you, Vicky. Good morning, everybody. Felipe Henao here with Poly. I'm the account manager for the state of California. I cover government education and healthcare. So I work very closely with Vicky as well as with ITM in a lot of opportunities involving mainly in the education and the healthcare spaces. And education was really keeping us busy here at Poly today. A lot of questions, a lot of deployments, all around how to deliver this distance learning, a great distance learning experience, especially in this hybrid learning environment that is starting to be created in a lot of districts as well as universities. In higher education, as you know, the distance learning and online learning has been around for a while. So I think a lot of pages from those books have been taken by K-12. And I think we can all agree that the education as we know it has been transformed, and now is going to be technology, and distance learning technology is going to be a part of the day-to-day in the classroom in order to cater to different needs. Right now, we're seeing three platforms really dominating the marketplace in the K-12 space: Zoom, Microsoft, and Google. And again, what we're seeing with Poly is we're seeing the versatility of our products and allowing districts to jump or to adopt a platform right now in order to get, in order to tend to the urgency of the matter and getting things going. But we're still also seeing this same districts thinking of what lies ahead in the strategy. If so, one day they're using certain platform, but the overall strategy from a long-term perspective may lie on a different platform. So they need a product that will give them immediate access to the need that they have today to address that need, and then move into the platform, but not having to rebuy and forklift all those devices and having to put budget into all those devices. They want a hardware platform that will play nice with whatever they throw at it, and that's what we do. As you can see, again, cameras, high quality cameras, but not just cameras. Audio is integral to the success of this of a good distance learning or hybrid learning experience, and that's what we provide. Let me just move here. So this is the device that is called the Poly Studio USB. It has been it's a bring your own device. It has only one USB connection, and that will address audio and video, 4K video. Again, it's become the de facto standard in the K-12 market. A lot of districts have adopted this, including some very large districts in the West Coast. The deployments that are going in the thousands. Not only for the fact that it's really easy for the teachers to use, and it makes that the technology really transparent to the teachers. It also is manageable. It's an enterprise-grade device that provides management, and we'll jump into that in a few minutes. Sound is superb. So as far as audio pickup, and as well as also the speakers of this device, they can cover really large spaces. So we've had scenarios where the schools were looking at voice lift systems to cater to the classroom. We tell them to we encourage them to try the microphones in this device, and they end up just adopting our device and not having to get additional voice lift systems, which again reduces that budget and allows them to spend somewhere else because this device is so complete. Again, great. It's right on the budget for a lot of schools, and like I said, it really lends itself to be deployed en masse rather easily. Again, now that we're here, right? What do we do? Just like universities back in a few years ago, they had those questions where they needed to add build curriculum around technology and how to deliver distance learning and provide those services. Again, this is something where we can help provide some tips, but Victoria, Vicky in the grants department can also work with you in order to find funding to give you professional development and really get consulting services in order to start making that technology migrate into what your day-to-day curricula is for all those classes at the schools. So again, throwing technology at a problem is not going to solve the problem. It's just how you integrate that technology into your curriculum that for each class and how to get those folks to adopt that is important. So again, those are things that professional development and getting some of these help is where we can assist. So again, to keep that in mind, we're here to help. But again, nothing new to us. Higher education has been doing it for years. And these are deployments that we do pretty much on a weekly basis. Again, there are two sides of the story. What I just talked about is always all around the classroom, having great video, great audio, having a user interface that is easy. And in our book, no user interface is the best interface, and that's what our products provide. We're not really asking your teachers to be trained on anything. We're not telling them to go into some sort of, into some sort of portal to get things done. They literally just plug and play and then let the unit do all the tracking, do all the audio capturing, block sounds that are unwanted, things like that. So the intelligence that this device brings is extremely versatile for the classroom and for what your teachers need to deliver. But the other half of the story is how are we going to enhance the learning experience with the kids or with the children that are in the class. California, we live in multi-generational and a lot of times low-income homes. A lot of these places are very, very noisy and really don't allow the kids to focus in class. And when they want to interject or they're going to ask questions, their headsets are not really equipped or the devices that they're not really equipped to block a lot of noise, creating a lot of disruption in the classroom when the teachers are talking. So the other half of the story is how do we work with those kids, and headsets that we make at Poly really are starting to make a big dent into creating a better experience for those kids that are at home, as well as those teachers that are interacting with those kids, because a lot of those noises, our microphones, our boom mics are equipped with noise canceling microphones that are capturing that noise but are filtering it out, so that way the teachers on the far end don't get disturbed and don't get disrupted with a dog barking, grandma screaming, things like that, all sorts of things that can be happening around the household. So again, highly encourage you that as you're building your strategy for remote learning and hybrid learning, to we gravitate immediately to the classroom, but I think the children should also be addressed in order to enhance that focus in that learning. Moving on, again, as I was discussing, this is not a bring your own device strategy where you just plug, you give it to your teachers and you kind of just hold your breath, trying to figure out if they're using it or if they're not going to need any support. All our devices are enterprise grade. You will have full visibility, or your IT teams will have full visibility as to what the devices are doing, how they're being utilized, and you'll be able to support them remotely. You'll be able to do firmware updates as things are changing. You'll be able to do firmware updates and get things going with the device. So not a lot of resources being taken from putting boots on the ground to support one by one. You can truly have just all your inventory, have it segmented by site, so that way you have you have a logical way of supporting a large network of these devices deployed in your environment. So again, those are things that we can touch, that we can go take into more depth when we're doing a demo and when we're going through the use. If you guys want to do an on-site demo with the unit. Again, a big question that everybody asks, and I have about 2 more minutes with you, is day 2, when the pandemic and everything's over, what do we do then? A lot. Again, this is all coming from higher education and from other schools that have been doing quite a bit with virtual learning. We see virtual field trips to places that some of these children will probably never have access to go, or probably never even dreamed of going, in order to expand that their mindset. Okay, this is not just where I live. So you can have a virtual field trip to Washington, D.C., and then next week you can have it in Australia. And there's a lot of resources online that allow for that. Again, virtual parent-teacher conferences, that applies to me. I'm always traveling. I would love to learn a little bit more about what my kids are doing, but I miss quite a few of them because I'm always on the road. And now having the ability to connect with the teacher on these platforms, Zoom, Google, Teams, whatever the case may be, is highly valuable to a parent like myself. Again, having kids that are somewhat sick, and I couldn't find a better picture online. Obviously you don't want to get somebody that's not feeling so good attend class, even if it's remote. But a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, my son was out of school for about 8 weeks due to he was really, really ill. But during the day he was perfect. It was just nighttime that it was really bad. I would have loved to have my son attend classes during the day using technology like the one we provide, instead of having to pick up weekly packets for him to submit on a weekly basis and learn, us act as the teacher and everything else, and him just learning from a paper. Then you see also school nurses, a lot of health counseling through the school nurse. And then the one that we're seeing quite a bit right now is collaboration among schools. A lot of music departments and a lot of debate departments and other schools are collaborating amongst each other to really keep that interaction going. So again, I think the sky's the limit. I'm really looking forward to see what the future brings for schools, because I think the applications are going to be endless, right? Creativity from teachers is unbelievable. And these are just 5 examples of some of the things that we see that happen more often, but definitely really, really looking forward to working with the team, find out how we can help you with the needs that you have right now, but also as your needs evolve and as your applications evolve, also how we can help you there. So thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to working with you through IT management.
Thank you so much, Felipe, and thank you so much, Vicky. I want to appreciate all the panelists for the time, and especially the you folks out there to attend this webinar. After the meeting, after the webinar, you will be seeing email from us with the raffle result. There are some questions that have come across. I will put it out to see what I think we have a question here for that would go to Ruckus. mGig and Wi-Fi 6, how do you see that coming in K through 12 education? We have done purchases of AC, and should we be considering looking at Wi-Fi 6? Logan, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, Wi-Fi 6 is, Wi-Fi 6 is going to be really the standard going forward. I mean, the Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E, a lot of people have asked questions about Wi-Fi 6E because, the 6 gigahertz spectrum. That's Wi-Fi 6E is very, very high frequency, and so we'll most likely see it in the first few years used for digital video delivery. So it's probably not going to hit client machines for quite a while. But Wi-Fi 6 is really becoming, if you look at any of the devices that are coming out now, it's really being included as the standard now. And it's not really because of any additional performance needs. What we really need is we need density, because as the amount of devices increase, the Wi-Fi 6 spec is really a high efficiency spectrum. So it brings along power savings to the device. So the devices that have Wi-Fi 6 and are connected to a Wi-Fi 6 AP, their batteries last longer, because the Wi-Fi 6 AP can tell it to go to sleep and tell it when to wake up when instead of the device having to wake up every once in a while and check in on its own, as well as the ability to really share the air. I have some slides on it, but I'm not going to bore you with that. But if you think about it, the idea is that right now, an AP and a client, really it's like a teacher in a classroom and calling on the students and saying one person can talk at a time. And the Wi-Fi 6 APs have the ability to actually talk and listen to multiple devices at the same time. If they want to use a certain amount of air, but you only need to say a short word, it can stack them all up into a single byte of air, basically. And so the efficiency that comes with that and the number of devices we see is really what's pushing the adoption, more than it's because we need, to push a gig to the AP. We don't need to do that. But when 60 clients need to connect 60 people, which means 180 clients, maybe 120 clients, all need to connect to that one AP and get a decent amount of service, then that's what we need Wi-Fi 6 for. And the mGig switches to power and to transit that data.
Thank you so much. This other question is to Polly. Regarding the USB studio that you illustrated earlier, Felipe, a question comes out that does Poly has a product that are similar to this that are smaller for home use for teachers and those who are working from home in a more of a personal space, if you will?
Yes. So we just released, that's a great question, by the way. So we just released 2 weeks ago our personal devices. So the P5 is a webcam that is a 1080p webcam with a microphone built in. It does need some sort of headphones or speaker to power the audio piece in the room, but great quality for those that want something simple in a great video, in great video. And then the P15, it is similar to the Studio USB, more of a personal device. It only has a 90 degrees field of view. The Studio USB has 120 field of view. Designed again for personal spaces. It does tracking on a personal level and is built in with speakers, microphone, and a 4K camera. That device is flying off the shelves again for that same application. And again, it comes at a much lower cost. So, but yeah, keep it in mind, the P5 and the P15, great devices, and highly recommend for you to look at them. And if you want a demo, we can definitely give you a demo.
Thanks so much. So P5 and P15, thank you so much. This other question, I guess it would be either to Logan or Chris. Customer is asking, we have Ruckus Wireless and we are an on-premise controller. Do we need to change our access points or make a change to switch to a controller in the cloud or a Ruckus cloud to get analytics?
Go ahead, and Chris, you can handle that one.
No, that's a great question. Yeah. So, what we're seeing is as long as you have the smart zone architecture, whether that's virtual or an appliance, we can point that data and the amount of traffic and analytics that are coming out of smart zone and push that into the virtual cloud environment for analytics. If you're currently on a zone director or something like that, the licensing that you currently have to manage your wireless infrastructure can be migrated over to a smart zone environment, but it would require either the purchase of a virtual instance of smart zone or a dedicated appliance.
Got it. So if they do have the APs already deployed, there is no rip and replace. The APs
That's correct.
can be used.
No,
Configuration change to go to
yep.
the cloud. All right. Next question is actually to 101 Voice. Does 101 Voice provide 911 and specifically the Raybom Acts and Kerry's Law? Those two are essentially new regulations when it comes to 911. Many people thought that using a cell phone is a great idea to call 911. Regulations are coming down further and further to essentially promote the idea or essentially put guidelines to have a physical phone installed in public places. So when a 911 is called, they can be routed to the local 911 centers versus CHP, in which is already inundated with 911 calls on the mobile carriers. So Raybom Acts and Kerry's Law are some of those, which basically one and mandate that if a 911 call needs to be made, it just simply can be made without any intervention of any digits or anything else. The other one is specific information about the address being sent to the 911 dispatch, and a call can be made back to that same number. So yes, 101 Voice is in compliance with those, and we have also real-time 911 notification. So that being said, I don't see any other question here, and I want to thank everybody. The recording of this webinar will be available and will be emailed to you in the next few hours if you want to share that among your other team members and your colleagues. Again, I want to emphasize our partners here, Poly, have great set of solutions. They do not have a particular hardware that only works with one platform. Their hardware are vendor agnostic and would support BYOD. And on the other side, our team at Ruckus, again, you see Ruckus Brocade in many deployments, but again, you see Ruckus on a HP network, on a Cisco network, on a various different network, and you see their switches on different. So vendor agnostic, all standard based, and we are lucky and blessed to have them as our partner. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Armand.
Thanks.